Wow, you're here in the flesh.
I am.
You know, when you're on Facebook, people you're like, are we real? Are we real?
Are we?
Are we?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a virtual program come to say hello.
We were on the phone for a bit. I'm like, you're gonna fucking blow her mind when you get into things. My mind was blown. All I could say is, you're amazing.
You're making me blush.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, so tell me your story. I'm so curious. Like, Cyndi said you had an accident sometime ago?
Yeah, I got hit by a car when I was about 8 years of age. I'll tell you the preamble, the whole thing. Because when I got my memory back, I understood what happened. So I was born in Poland, like I already mentioned, and I went to kindergarten. It was great, happy times. And then you go to grade 1 in Poland. They really want to keep on reminding you that the country was attacked. So they show this documentary, which is just really propaganda, for about an hour and a half to all the kids entering school. And you're sitting there going, the place I'm currently in is about to be essentially destroyed, because you're a kid, you're just imagination, right? So everybody kind of walks in one way and walks out another way.
Ooh.
It's like social programming 101. For me, when I was watching this thing, I got this moment where I was totally terrified. And my little mind was going, figuring out how do I survive this situation. So I came up with escape this program. Very simple words. Escape the Germans. So then I implanted this code and kept on moving on with life. When I got my memory back, I realized how much time I spent thinking about that as a kid. So my game was to escape school first, because they're going to get the schools, right? I noticed a lot of people were going to hospitals because of car accidents. Car accidents were like really high at the time.
Why?
But they were drinking a lot of vodka.
Oh.
Like massive consumption of vodka. I mean, amounts that make mere mortals.
Pickled? Feels like it would pickle people.
It was like, what?
Pickle them.
Pickle them?
Internally, if they're drinking lots of vodka.
Yeah,
in martinis,
quite possibly,
straight up?
quite possibly. And so anyway, my little mind kind of thought of this idea called, well, I gotta get myself to the hospital somehow. So what I came up with was I was going to get myself hit by a car.
You planned it.
I planned it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Consciously planned it.
Consciously planned it, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so then it was like a courageous thing, because I was like, okay, these Germans are coming, I'm gonna escape, and I'm gonna be like safe. So it was all inside of like, I'm saving myself. That was my context. My context was not, I'm gonna get harmed. My context was, I'm gonna go to the hospital. My parents are gonna come, my family's gonna come, and everyone is going to get that I don't want to be in school anymore, of course. And then they'll just let me go and do my own thing, live my own life. That was my idea.
That's a deep thinker for a child.
Oh yes, that's where I was.
Yeah.
I didn't want school. I didn't understand it. I just want to go around and just live my life.
Yes.
I was making my own sandwiches by the time I was 4. Like, everything was good. I could feed myself. I was self-sustaining, count money. Anyway, bottom line is, one courageous day, I saved enough money to get 2 ice cream cones, because I thought getting 2 ice cream cones, getting kind of hit by the car, the ice cream cones falling on the windshield would look cool, and then the windshield wipers would have to kind of wipe off the ice cream, right?
Oh.
Hold on.
So it was
Hold
like
on
a
1 second.
movie moment.
My life's like a movie, yeah. Hold on. Justin, are you here? Okay, so I parked all the way up Bathurst and Dundas. No. All is well. We got it all under control here. Take your time. Alrighty. See you soon. So yeah.
Wow. So the ice cream cones on the windshield.
Yeah. So I found out. So eventually there was like a bus coming on one side. I'm like, no, that's too big. So then I'm like, a car's coming. Okay, all right, I think I can do this, right? So yeah, the car does legit hit me about 40 kilometers per hour, right? And I'm a little kid, right? So what happened over the next 5 to 7 minutes was I was not in physical reality. I was in hyperspace. My eyes were open, but I was just in pure energy, pure quantum space, interacting with beings, and my body became a download system. So I was just downloading data, and I didn't realize at the time I was downloading planetary memory, because it's just happening so fast. About a minute in hyperspace is about 1,000 Earth years, mathematically. When I went out of the hospital, it was another 3 weeks. But the problem wasn't physical, it was all memory. It was all like trauma and interlaced with like memory and how I stored my memories, and then the overlay to deal with not being able to handle it. Because I was a kid, I was like, how the hell do I handle that? You know, like, like I'm a specialist like neurosurgeon at that point with like advanced memory architecture, you know, so I can go in and like reprocess my memories and convert all the charges inside of them. That took me, 27 years to learn until I got my memory back.
So wait, you didn't have your memory, right?
I didn't have my memory of that incident.
Okay.
So, when you like block out a certain region of like a big incident, then life keeps on going, but your brain tries to keep on pull you back to that moment. But it does it in all kinds of different ways. So one of the ways it did it for me is through art. So I started drawing and doing art. I went abstract pretty fast. So I was in abstract mode fairly early on. And it was all just like immense color. Just like just incredibly intricate color. And I was just drawing these things and people really liked them. And I would just keep on drawing them because I was just reconnecting with that moment in time without really even knowing about it.
What did you say was the physical trauma though from the accident?
There really wasn't any physical things. I fell like a tree, I had some bruises, but that wasn't the...
There wasn't a brain injury.
There was.
Yeah, that's what I was...
I ended up getting a brain injury, so it's kind of like the incident happened, and I participated in the brain injury somewhat. So like, obviously, because I jumped in front of the freaking car,
yeah.
Right? And then I like consciously started to like edit my experience so that I was like, I'm going to ignore that happened, kind of, right? Oh, selective memory. This will work great because you're a kid, right? You just, we do this as adults all the time, right? That didn't just happen. We like selected out, like delete. Oh, I can't handle this. No processing power for that one.
Yeah.
We do this all the time, right?
Yeah, coping.
Yeah, just like dealing with it in the best way that you can, the best way that you know. But like basically, yeah, I had ended up getting like issues with adapting to my environment. So like my brain's at 8, my body keeps on growing, and then I'm like watching everyone doing adult things, right? But for me, the way it occurs, like, why is not everybody playing? So I find it really absurd, so I start laughing a lot. I still am, because I'm just like, I still find it pretty absurd, because the way like we're designed as a civilization, I think it's all pretty absurd. Like the way we're like operating.
So what's absurd about how we're operating?
It's because we're like we're using very basic level programming to run our society, and it's all low brainwave, low operating systems. We're harnessing like tiny little portions of what we're actually capable as a species. We're really tolerating a certain condition of like things not working. Well, I do training programs legit now, right? Like I actually go into conversation with people so they're structured, so I don't miss things. Because there's a lot you can say. But I teach people systems because when you hang out in hyperspace long enough, all you see is the mechanics of how everything works in the background, the stuff that people don't see. And for most of us, it's we're just not present to that. Like there's these deeper level processes going on. When we find out about them, people usually do psychedelics or something. They like freak out. They're like, "Oh my god!" They start freaking out, and I'm like, "Legit? Like, did you just connect with your imagination?" Wow! And you got scared of yourself? Wow! Once you can really travel imagination without getting lost, you're like good to go.
What's your opinion on war and why human beings use war?
Well, that has to deal a lot with how we structure our law and the amount of social programming condition that does not allow the vast majority of the global population to see how these legal constructs are designed all in the background. Now, it's all available on Wikipedia, but connecting all the little pieces together, I mean, there's so much data, right? It's virtually impossible for human beings in a society that's based upon the code program of survive, reproduce, and be busy.
Survive, reproduce, and be
That's
busy.
all there is. Survive, reproduce, be busy. Survive, everything, all the marketing systems, all the corporate marketing systems, all these things are designed upon those three things. Survive, reproduce, be busy. Survive, reproduce, be busy. Everything runs over those three codes.
What is it? Power? Is it money? Is it
The
function?
systems have gone beyond human level intelligence. So the systems are running us, we're not running them. We're not even present, we're not here, nobody's home. The systems are running it. People think it's other people running it.
Already
The systems are intelligent, they want to survive too. Just because they're in the background and invisible doesn't mean they're not using us, they constantly are. And we're like little babies, like understanding like you know, we're in the developmental cycle of like, oh, language. Oh, okay. Language creates reality, you know, and these are simple things that people are not aware of. One of the ways I started to get my memory back was with breathing. So, you know, breathing can be looked at as a simple exchange of gases, right? Swapping gases. It can be looked at, you know, in yoga for like functionality. But what I started to learn is like how breathing can be used for restructuring your internal memory architecture and actually getting access to your memories and layering your entire brain or organizing and then systematizing your entire system for how you actually receive, process, store, and extract information out of yourself.
Hey,
Justin.
Justin, nice to meet you,
Justin, nice to meet you,
Cyndi.
buddy.
Justin.
Hey,
Yeah, man.
Jesse.
Nice to meet you, Jesse.
Good handshake.
I'm Ryan.
Nice to meet you, Ryan.
Every night you go to sleep, your brain, its job is to process memories from the previous day. So if the brain actually did its job, every day you'd wake up with equal or more likely more energy each and every day than you had prior to going to sleep, because your brain would fully extract all of the experiences. It would extract all the energy out of the positive experiences. It would also extract the energy out of all the negative experiences. The negative experiences will make your brain go faster. You increase your brain processing power. The positive experience would restore all the functionality throughout your body and heal every single thing that's going on with your body. You wake up and you're like ready to go. EMFs interrupt that entire system. So at night, we don't actually complete our cycles. Our brain can actually do its job. And that is a network, because we've built an entire global network of cables. And that's only one system that we've built. And we're not conscious of the impact of that system, and like how it's actually impacting us as a species. We just think it's like, oh yeah, electricity, no problem. Yeah. Ever heard of like putting a frog in boiling water? If you just steadily keep on increasing the temperature, it's just going to stay there, right?
It's going to stay there.
We're like that. We've kind of created an environment where we're just doing that to ourselves.
So how do we change that? Is there
Well,
hope
you
of
don't
changing
change it. You just build something completely new. But the more you try to change it, the more it will resist, and then it will persist.
So how do we go about building something?
Well, you have to get into like systems level the conversations and align people on global games, so like upgrading global systems. You got to be able to hold a conversation like 40, 50, 80 years out into the future and be okay. Most people can't hold a conversation 40, 50, 80 years, 100 years out into the future because they're just dealing with survival right now. Survive, reproduce, right? Those are the primary kind of considerations people have. So they're not thinking that far along. So then there's not a lot of people they can actually work with to have those longer kind of conversations without people actually breaking down. Because
Mind if I jump in here?
Jump in.
So, who are you?
I'm Justin.
Yes, and how do you know Julian?
He's my mentor.
He's your mentor.
I found him. I'm the only person, one of the only people in his group who actually understands this crazy person and how he works. He built his breathing system on all sorts of ancient science and spirituality from a very long time ago. But I studied a lot of that, so I recognized his system where it is. What I wanted to add on to what Julian said is I was looking online the other day, because I've been talking about the logarithmic growth of science. So for those who don't know, a logarithm is a chart that starts very, very slowly and moves faster and faster all the way up towards infinity as it approaches zero. It's a math term. So it goes slow, 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 and then it progressively gets faster and faster up to the point where you're drawing a straight line. You're almost going straight up. our scientific technology and breakthroughs over history for the last 2,000 years have been on a logarithmic scale. So, if you look at history, and my numbers are going to be totally wrong, it's just to get the idea, not the math. This is an emotional idea, not a physical one. Though you could see the physics for it, I just don't have them in front of me. If you look, say, 2,000 years, and you look at the first 2,000 years, like ages ago, whatever we define as that there was an amount of technology that was created. In 1,000 years after that, that amount of technology was created again. So, and then, so that would be, if it was another 1,000 years, theoretically that would be double in the same amount of time. But it doesn't go that way. Then it started to go a little faster. So then the next 400 years, 500, let's say that takes us to 1990, we went as fast in 100 years as we had in the last 1,000. And you can track it. It's really trackable. And like science accepts this for some reason that I can't really grasp. And so the thing is, if you look from 1990 to let's say 2007, 2010, whatever, that area, you'll see that there's a very natural progression where first in 1990 computers were the biggest thing, and now I have one in my pocket.
Right.
Think about the speed by which we went from a computer was the size of a football field in 1960 to I have a computer in my pocket that's more powerful than the computer that put someone on the moon.
Whoa.
So what's going to happen next?
Did that really happen?
Yes.
Did somebody really go to the moon?
I believe it.
Yeah?
There's too much evidence.
Stanley Kubrick.
There's too much scientific backing. I watched a really good video from a channel that I love from actually mainstream television called Adam Ruins Everything. People are living their daily lives and someone says something that's just not true, and Adam shows up and he's like, "Hi, let me tell you why that's wrong." and everybody hates him.
Are you a very young man?
I'm relatively young.
How old are you?
I am 26.
Have you always been so wise?
Yes. I remember an experience on a bus. Funny story. I was talking to this bus driver as we were going on the bus because I was bored and whatever, and I never was afraid of communicating with humans.
Sure.
Or aliens or robots. You know, generally people. And
they're all the same.
I talked to this like 70-year-old bus driver. He was like, "Are you older than me?" Because, like, seriously, you're talking like a 50-year-old person in a 10-year-old's body.
Yeah.
And did you enjoy hearing that?
Oh, I loved it. It was great. So, we're in 2018, and personally, my thought about the next major leap in technology that's coming out right now is blockchain, crypto. It's not about the money, it's just about the technology. It's going to be everywhere. Have you ever heard of cryptocurrency?
Well, is that online money?
Yes, the online,
like
the Bitcoin. Bitcoin
Okay,
is a cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency.
No. There are 1,500 different currencies.
Whoa.
Shit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There'll be tens of thousands.
There'll be tens of thousands.
That
millions
totally makes
of
sense.
thousands. Language is the civilizing force.
Yeah.
So it's the depth with the of language and understanding of language that allows us to go deeper as a human species, because we are social creatures, and when we get together and interact with language, we actually share processing power. You're having thoughts, you're having conversations inside,
Right.
and you're having dialogues, like almost like with other people, right? You're talking, right? I always assume that the other person can fully hear me. So as I have those interactions and those dialogues, when I resolve whatever conflicts there are, my phone rings. Ever had those moments? You know, because you're doing internal processing, you open up your eyes, external reality. Hello.
But I imagine that there will come a time where language is superfluous.
Oh, yes.
I would say that language will never be superfluous, but the spoken word might not be the way we operate language.
That would change the way language takes form entirely, I imagine.
That's right, because if we're operating on body language or mental mind signals, we're still communicating. There's still language. If we evolved 2,000 years, 1,000 years, 100 years, 10 years, let's say 5 years now, the next 5 years we're going to advance as much as we did from 1990 until 2010. Or 2018, whatever the numbers, however the numbers work out. What's interesting is if you start to look at that math, in 5 years, we're talking about the same amount of evolutions we had from, let's say, 2008 till 2018. So the next 5 years, we're looking at 10 years, which is 2,000 years of progress in 10 years. The next period, then in 5 years, sorry. The next period is going to be 2 years. We're going to evolve as much as we did in that 5 years. The next year is going to be half a year. We're going to evolve as much as we did in those 2 years, based on the chart, if it stays constant, and it could always change. It just hasn't for the course of human history. So if we keep that logic path going, in 30 years, we will have evolved 1,000,000 times what we are today.
So when do you foresee a drastic shift
Right now.
Right now, it's happening right now.
In a positive way?
Yes.
The biggest challenge is getting people present.
If we can't adapt and get present to the world that we have now, then we simply will like start, breaking down. So we have to take responsibility for the technology that we already own, our physical bodies, in a new way. And our brains, we have to train them. You just can't expect our brains to be like left like on autopilot and just expect it to, do miracles and wonders for you, because it's going to have brainwave congestion. So you have to get responsible for clearing your own personal brainwave congestion.
Brainwave congestion.
Yes, this is what we have. We have memory problem, right? Like our brains are congested with data and information, experiences that we didn't know how to handle, and that started when you were a little kid. Where do you think that goes? Your brain just stores it, and it waits for you to extract the learning out of that memory, so then you can integrate it yourself into here and now, so then you get more present with here and now, rather than living from that moment in time when your brain got stuck. Like these things called regulators, like switches in your brain, and there's a lot of them. But as experiences happen and you
I feel you in there right now.
Right, and like the intensity of the brain, like the intensity of the moment is something that your brain can't handle, those regulators start to switch off. They do that to protect you, so that the electrical brainwave activity does not go through that circuit and doesn't kill you. So the brain does it as a survival mechanism, shut off circuits, and then you're like, after that moment, you don't have a recollection of certain things prior to it, because your memory system changes. Like you don't think through that part of the brain. You're like, it locks it out. So you start thinking, maybe you become like information heavy, like me. You start thinking from the frontal lobe. So then you avoid certain networks in the pot lobes.
And so is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what happens when you have an intense moment in time and you don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to be with it. So then your brain shuts off these switches, and then you don't have access to those networks. It's like information highways get turned off. So as we have this technology, blockchain and all these things, right, it's fine. But if we're not present as humans, it won't make the ultimate difference. Because no technology makes the ultimate difference. We do. Human beings and our behavior and how we relate to the systems that we belong to. Human beings can override any system because we have this thing called, apparently, free will. Right? So because we have this apparent idea of free will, we think we can do any whatever thing without accounting for the systems and how they've been built. Now, ultimate system is system of nature, right? And we're a product of that. So nature tracks everything in the background, already and always. It doesn't miss a beat. We build planetary systems to control human populations. We build systems at the level of community. We build individual systems for ourselves. So like understanding those things is really key. If our human being technology doesn't work, we'll be simply continue being used by the system. Because that's what's been happening for humanity for thousands of years, right? Like we just get used by the system without understanding that if we're not consciously causing and generating the system that we belong to, then we just become the slave, that it becomes the master, and we get used by it. And we get stuck in a duality, so there's rich and poor, right and left,
I have
up
questions.
and down, and all. We get stuck in these dual constructs, and we think that's life. That's not life. That's not even, what's it called, existing, barely mere like sub-level existence. It's not life.
Can you feel how much I'm vibrating right now?
I can for sure.
I want to know where you're at on the pituitary gland and decalcifying and all that kind of stuff. But
You mean
I
the
also
pineal
want
gland or the pituitary?
the pineal, and then I also want to know. your original self. If you can talk to that concept, do you understand what I'm saying by original self? Whatever you understand of it.
Yeah.
I love that you're feeling the air.
I'm petting a Persian cat.
You're petting a Persian cat.
You seem to be confused. I'm petting a Persian cat. Direct experience is always supreme. So that's the original self. Direct experience. Real-time memory processing. So all humans have the capacity for that, capability for that. We simply have a brainwave congested brain. We're unaware of how language is impacting our ears. You know, it's as soon as you say something, speed of sound, back into ear, runs the process, loads all the already existing speech patterns that you know. By the time you say the next word again, your brain's already like, has a pattern. That's how we program ourselves with language. We can't catch what's coming out of our mouths. By the time it hits our ear, we're just running and saying stuff we're not present to. So then we disconnect from what you're referring to as, in our languaging, original self. We just, we look at it as, so who we are as a soul, and we have being, which we generate. We generate being. And language is the house of being. So language gives you access to being. And until you get present to language, who you are is not a human being, you're a human doing, you're a human machine, you're a human automaton. You're simply living in a low brainwave mental construct, mostly created in your mind. You're not relating to physical reality. Like, this is what I recognize after my experiences. We're not here. We're not present. We're like reacting based on past things. So that's original self. What was your first question? Pineal gland, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so of course, in an environment like this that we live, we have this connection to source through our pineal gland. But our pineal gland is, mostly deactivated and shrunk. You have to train it, and the way that we train it is initially through a breathing system. So there's breathing sequences that we do, and we have a system of 360 breathing sequences that you do, and it runs diagnostics through your entire memory architecture. And it corrects brainwave signatures. You can have a communication with your pineal gland. That's how you actually talk with your pineal gland. You talk through programmable sequences of breath that are vibrational programming language, and vibration is what the pineal gland controls. It regulates your DNA. And you know how the coil of the DNA, how it works like that? Initially, you're basically setting up language so you can talk to your brain. Just so I can interact with you right now with words, your brain, yes, it does listen to words and it runs those circuits, but it's only part of it. Your pineal gland listens to these sequences, and they're based upon genetics and signs of brainwaves, DNA. They're linked to you as a machine, but like an alive machine, because it triggers gamma brainwave activity. The pineal gland is responsible for generating a gamma brainwave, and gammas are this generic kind of energy that allow you to adapt, allow your brain to switch from a position and look at different perspectives. So it allows you to learn. It allows you to have automated learning processes, like you did when you were a kid. Like when you were a kid, you could just learn and everything just felt so fast, and you grew really fast, and at a certain point you stopped growing that fast. Well, consider your brain just didn't have more space because the organization of the brain at that age wasn't organized correctly. So then pineal gland wasn't engaged. So at that point, hopefully before then, in an advanced civilization, all the children get taught to breathe so they can have space. They have these neural pathways, these neural networks, so they can receive all kinds of different information. They can see how people are doing things. So there's not only one way of doing something. There's not only one way of running an organization. It's not only black and white, right and wrong. There's a full spectrum way, but you can't see that unless your brain is actually trained to see all the other ways that it could do it.
So I think there's a underlying thought to simplify in the space, that there's a detail that's really important that hasn't been said, at least while I was here, which is our bodies have the capacity for so much more than we realize. So I'm going to just show you, and all of the people who are talking to, I have no idea where this is going or what's happening, but that's okay because life is awesome.
It's going everywhere.
Life is awesome! And so I'm going to give everyone an exercise. You all can do it too.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is take a breath, but instead of breathing the way you usually would, I want you to concentrate on breathing into your right hand. So take a deep breath and feel the air in your breath enter into your hand. And it's interesting that you can make your breath go anywhere in your body that you choose. If you didn't experience it, it might take some practice like anything else. But what becomes possible when you start practicing breathing into different areas of your body, you can remove pain in those areas, you can remove tension, you can let go of whatever's holding you, and you can see what's there. Another great place I've read this about, there's an amazing book that they make all therapists read before they become therapists. And that book is called Focusing. The author's name is Eugene Gendlin. And Gendlin speaks about how you can find a felt sense, as he called them, in your body, a twitch or an itch or something in you, and then give it a label and describe that label and have an experience the label in a vision. And I highly recommend this book to whoever's interested, because you can actually heal yourself through those spaces of deconstructing that image and being with what's there until you have, as Gendlin said, a felt shift, which shifts your body into whatever the new state is, and you might not even recognize it then. But in a minute you'll be like, oh, but I don't hate my gophers anymore. And so when the body has this much power, the thing our education system has never done is actually show us our body. In fact, the whole system is based in hiding the body. Look at whatever's happening in the schooling and sexuality and the structures that are put in place to teach kids how to be afraid.
Point.
And so here's the problem. We might have forgotten, and that might be true. But let's use the example of someone who was repressed because their father beat them over the head every day for 10 years with a rocking horse. Just to use a totally impossible example, so as not to offend anybody.
But it could be possible.
And for that person, I'm very sorry. But let's take that example. And so they grew up and they just totally forgot. They could not hold that, so they let go. And then one day, they go to some therapist, and they don't know why, because they're very unhappy with their relationship with their boyfriend. I wonder why. And so all of a sudden it comes up in therapy. This repressed memory gets released. Is that a comfortable experience?
To release it.
To release it is a terrible experience. It's one of the hardest things anyone ever does. You remember. And only after you go through the torment of the memory that you've remembered can you start to be with what's there. The problem is that's where we're going.
That's the problem?
Well, that's the solution and the problem. Oh. The point is we're going to remember, but it's not going to be fun to remember.
Responsible?
Yeah.
I know.
Because when I say, hey Cyndi, you're responsible, what comes up for you?
Teacher.
It is my work.
My immediate thing is authority, but then if I move that out of it, if I move out of that...
But that's really the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's linked into authority, so then what is your relationship with authority?
Oppression.
Exactly. So responsibility equals authority equals oppression. So it's not an opportunity. Because the context from which you're coming at it from, it's not like I want more of that, because it equals oppression. Do you see?
Right.
And that's the case for almost all humans on Earth. And you have this word, but operationally we have a false belief system around it. It's not true that that's the case with responsibility. In fact, quite the opposite is true. When you take it on correctly, it actually simply gives you freedom, and everything starts working in your life. There's order, structure. You feel confident. You're able to take on projects, complete things. Stop invalidating yourself. You complete cycles. You take on projects and do things. and it's fun. It's actually quite enjoyable thing.
And is it really as simple as just making the decision to shift that?
Absolutely.
Well, I wouldn't say, ontologically, I wouldn't call it a decision.
Okay.
Because that is a cutting off of ideas. In your mind, what you're doing when you make decisions, you cut off alternatives. You disconnect, so like you cut off essentially intelligence centers, neural networks, every time you make a decision.
Okay.
Sometimes you make those executive decisions because you say, okay, my life's for this, I'm going to be an athlete. So then you decide and you are that, so it has a usefulness. But if you overuse it and use it in situations where it's not appropriate or correct to use it, then you get yourself into trouble.
What is it to be straight? What is it to be gay?
Exactly.
The reality is that you are choosing to define yourself. I'm a woman and I slept with a woman.
Yeah.
So now I have a label.
Yeah.
And I totally care about this label because labels matter. No. So what the reality is that you slept with a girl and then society says, hey, we're going to define you with that. It doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what you've done, it doesn't matter who you are, you're that label, whatever that label is. And it's an agreement. We all just agree that, say, lesbian means that you had sex with a girl and therefore you are a different person. But everything makes you a different person. We've put way too much attachment on that. It's like if someone sleeps with a girl once, all of a sudden they're a lesbian for life. It's meaningless. What is the fact that you did something have to do with who you are or what you do?
Or who you do.
Or who you do. As far as I can tell, there's only two differences in the way that I ended up becoming who I am. And Julian can answer this after me if he likes. At some point, I just stopped, when someone told me something, I just stopped believing that to be true. And I got to a place where there was an unlimited level of what could be. So it was possible that red is actually blue, and I've been seeing red my whole life and everyone else sees blue. Yeah. And you know what, I don't know. I'll use a more useful example. Some people believe Atlantis was the height of technology and that we forgot. That's where we are now. And I have no idea. But I'm also not limited to the fact that that could theoretically be impossible due to science. That's a limitation that someone has created. It's possible. It's possible that there were aliens there. It's entirely possible that there weren't. It's entirely possible, for example, in a crazier one, that magic is real, and we just haven't found it. I'm not limited to my experience. I saw or felt or did something, and it could have been any way. There are very few things that I actually solidly believe and can't be changed on. So that's the thing. I'm open to the possibility that anything anyone tells me is possible, and also that they're totally batshit crazy. The other thing that I did was I've never stuck to one modality. I've never been trapped in being one person. A term that I love to define myself as is a Renaissance man. I was Da Vinci. So I had a friend who asked me, I want to be just like you. It was the most adorable thing. And it was like, I want to take on that Renaissance man. How the hell do I do that? Right? Because what is it that I did that's so different? Two things. Learn from everything. That's the first one. So when I say learn from everything, you're watching reality TV. I watch Storage Wars. Okay? I watch Storage Wars. Someone is whatever I am as evolved, or whatever word you want to choose, but I don't really see myself that way, watches Storage Wars. Why on earth do I do that? Well, here's the thing. Storage Wars is a total scam where everything's been set up and they know exactly what's going to happen. And Storage Wars is an incredibly educational show. They go into this storage locker and see what's there, and then they bid, and whoever wins the locker gets to go inside and see what's there. And it's all staged. Every episode, someone finds something in a locker and says, I don't know what this is. So they go to a store or of a guy who sells that, and he gives like a 5-minute explanation of this native Kawachakian artifact that was found and just happens to be worth $10 million. You really lucked out in your fake storage locker. Do you know what makes Storage Wars so obvious that they're faking it? The cameras always know where to look.
That's the giveaway.
But are they looking through everything? And then
yeah, but the camera says, oh, what's behind this rock? And then they cut to commercial. and then they move the rock, and all of a sudden there's something they don't know, so they go,
Evidence that it's
But it doesn't
staged.
matter, because the education...
It is a program. You are being programmed.
But it's not that. What's interesting is that they go to this expert on Nawakachian artwork, or whatever it is, and all of a sudden he starts teaching you, and everyone's like, brain dead robot watching television, when in fact they could be like, oh my god, the Wakachans were the coolest. And it's like, so that's the first thing. My first piece of advice is learn from everything. Or you can learn how to stage a show like Storage Wars. If you watch, you see how they did camera work. I'm a graphic designer and an artist and a visual effects artist.
Yeah.
I learned so much by watching just how they put the cameras, where they put the cameras, the gamble, the psychology behind the gambling, who plays who, how do they play each other, what funny thing are they doing, what makes it funny, why is that comedy? Like I said, watch how they do things, make that into your life. The other thing that I've done is I have just been a voracious seeker of knowledge. Oh, there's actually a third thing, but let's finish this one. So, the advice I gave to my friend when he asked me, how do I be a Renaissance man like you, is go on YouTube every morning and watch something totally random that you've never heard anything about before for 10 minutes. No more, no less. This is simple. 10 minutes, I'm going to make it stupid simple. Go find a video on llamas. Go find a video on hyping networks. Go find a video on graphic design. Go find spirit science. You're welcome. Go find someone talking about Genlin, or someone talking about aliens, or someone talking about why the government is the best damn fucking thing that ever existed. Or not. Find someone who didn't say that. Find all the perspectives. Listen to all the perspectives. Don't believe any of the perspectives. Just feel which one feels right for you and leave that as right for you. And then every day you've learned something different. And you're no longer attached to this idea that you can only be good at one thing in life. You can only be a contractor. You can only be a plumber. If you're a virtuoso pianist, there's no reason you can't also be a drummer and make $100 million trading real estate. Or you can't be an amazing pianist who goes, you're never going to think of pianist the same way again, into the middle of a glade and lives away from the entire society for 7 years. And then comes back, he's still a great pianist, and he's become like Buddha. And so there's no limit to how many circles of energy you can learn from. And when you think you're watching something stupid, learn something instead of watching something stupid.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I went to business school, and I went to business school because, and I watched Dragon's Den, and I learned, honestly, you know what I learned? I learned how to value companies, because it's really simple math, and if you just do some deconstructing for 5 minutes, you'll learn how a company is valued. And listening to what they said about companies, I learned tons about business, and I decided to go to business school because I realized even though I was doing pretty good, that foundational knowledge was missing. And now I operate a business, and I'm doing all the things that I'm doing, and I play piano, and I play guitar, and I sing, and I ski, and I build computer electronic equipment, and I read tarot, and
Ooh.
I'm an interesting person. And I studied Tantra spirituality, and if you can do that, your life will just be full of new things all the time.
Just basically say yes to everything.
You don't say yes to everything. You also have to say,
Practical about my yeses.
you have, we play games in life, right?
Yeah.
So then we have a body and a physical body and time and space.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to work with it the way it's designed, so then
You don't get into too much trouble.
Yeah, like burnout could be one of those troubles, or
Arrested.
Yeah, it could be another one. Arrested, kind of like I guess it'd be arresting your development.
Yeah.
It's like when you take on something and bring it in. That's the power of creating. But what I'm describing here is not saying yes to everything. It's learning from everything. It's not say yes. It's if you choose to watch the same stupid people digging their hand into a bucket of ice for no reason, or being dumped with cold water, or eating Tide Pods.
Oh.
People do that. That was a fad. It was a thing. What can you learn from it?
Tide Pods?
Yeah, like detergent. Some people almost died.
Yeah.
Kids are stupid. But they wanted to explore. There was an experience there. They weren't afraid of asking a question. What does the Tide Pod taste like? And they learned, and they'll probably never do it again. But what happened is there was a learning experience. And what I learned from watching that is A, some kid really likes Tide Pods. But B, that how easy is it to convince a group of people to create a mass effect on society's consciousness that Tide Pod eating is what's cool now, and then everyone starts following it. What does the trend start? Where does it move? How did we get to this position? What are the children really asking when they're trying to do this? What's the lesson? What's the psychology? How are their parents? How are their friends? What's the connection? How is this going to affect them in the future? Asking these questions and being aware of what's going on, right? Just internally, while I'm sitting watching television, you learn so much more than just stupid fucking kid with the Tide Pods. It's like
But that requires intellectual effort.
It does.
It does require intellectual effort. You have to engage. You have to participate. You were saying, how you're getting affirmation and then oftentimes you're in your own head processing these things.
Yes.
And,
a lot of people talk about, quiet your mind. I don't want to, because I really, for the most part, enjoy my thought process very much.
Do you know that there's an opposite meditation to quiet your mind? It's have as many thoughts as possible. I'm serious.
Speed.
Instead of hear a thing and then break it or let it go, just be in your mind, and whenever anything comes by, just start fully exploring whatever that thought is. Go to the next thought and the next thought and the next thought, and just be in your thoughts.
So I really want to get your opinion on extraterrestrials, because you did hint.
I love them.
Not hint. If when you had your near-death experience, did you have any access to that?
When hyperspace there's beings that create the construct for which you and I exist inside of. So physical reality has a source point. It's generated. A lot of the things I share, they're advanced concepts and ideas. I share them so that people listening to it can go into a different level brainwave of conversation. And when it comes to ideas, so you're asking about extraterrestrials, so like beings from other worlds operating at different levels of technological advancement, different levels of communication systems.
Is the science fiction version of it, is it true, or anything could be possible?
Anything could be possible.
Anything could be possible.
Always true.
So anything is possible. Think of a civilization that's 5 billion years ahead in development of our civilization. Just hold it as a thought. 5 billion years ahead in development of our civilization. And they're still fully thriving, harmoniously operating. How do you think they're operating? What do they have access to? How are they being? What do they look like? What are they up to?
Anything.
Oh my God, right? So this is really an inquiry more than anything. Can we access those domains? Yes. We can begin to inquire into it and ask questions, like Justin is saying. Keep on asking questions, keep on learning, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn how things work and how they operate, so then we can, be consistent in certain things that we do, so we have like reliability and predictability on our results we produce, so we develop confidence. And then we can have all these conversations about extraterrestrials. A huge part of it is, well, have you met one? Right? Then have you, if you have had, then that's great. Then develop the language so we can understand how their technologies work. To begin downloading whatever you're downloading and build systems around it, so that they can impact other people. Because if they're going to be that advanced, that's what I would do.
We as humans see in 3 dimensions. We know there's a 4th dimension, time. And if you've ever seen artwork online of like what 4th dimensional geometry looks like, it's pretty cool. But the thing is that there's way more dimensions. If you think that there are only 3 dimensions, then that's limited.
Yeah.
It's or 4 or 5 or 8 or 20, doesn't matter. And we have no idea what's in there. We have no idea if there's like little ball people that roll around the floor all the time on like the 18th dimension, and that we can't see them because they're 18th dimensional. And
It's like unrelatable beyond unrelatable. Not even like non-real. It's not even real. It's not real.
well, that's right, but it is to them.
We can access that somehow.
Theoretically, we can always open our possibility, and anything is possible. It's just a matter of evolution. How fast can you evolve to the point where you can create the possibility of seeing 1/1,000,000th of what's actually there? Because remember, we're talking in the conversation that when I walked in, we began at science and how to have a conversation 1,000,000 years in the future. And what does that look like when humans aren't human and we're just inner hive mind of like all of our parts that has then evolved into something I have no idea what that could possibly be because I'm not a hive mind, I'm not smart enough. Like, I don't know how far that goes. Human evolution has surprised everyone every single time anytime anyone's ever said anything in the past, they were wrong.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it doesn't matter. It's fascinating to think about, but I'm never going to be right. So I'm sure there's other things, and then ET or extraterrestrial or alien is a label that makes them different from you.
Yeah, and also invaders.
Sure.
There's a huge social programming kind of thing about how the aliens are being used. That whole extraterrestrial conversation, and it's all inside of fear, right?
Yeah.
End of the world, aliens are coming, huge military operation.
Interbreeding with us, so they can
Sounds
experiment.
like
on
fun.
us.
I have no idea what they look like, or sound like, or taste like, or feel like, or smell like.
Yeah.
For all I know, it's literally the most attractive woman I've ever seen,
Right.
who just happens to be 30 feet tall.
We really don't know who we are in relationship to the law. It also connects to the relationship with our parents that we have. Like it goes deep, okay? So, talking about signatures, like signature, signaling nature, right? Which is what you do every time you sign a document. You're sending a signal to nature to tell nature, hey, I am connecting.
Wow.
But it's inside of the context of the commercial construct. Ultimately, there's, like, you could say there's this world of commerce and there's a world of private contract where you can operate outside of commerce. Now, commerce has spread as a system so much everywhere that it's pretty much everywhere. It's what we know and
Money?
how to...
Is that money?
It's a battlefield. Commerce is a battlefield. The money we use today is a military script. Globally, people use these paper things because the world is still at war, and the military industrial complex has integrated their entire system all over the world and invited everyone without informing people that they want everyone to participate in the game of commerce. And we get born into this, and it's so deeply embedded into how we live as humans, we don't even know that there's an alternative. Like, we don't know. And we don't know that we don't know. And if it's like so unreal that there could be one, we can't even think about it. Because our minds have been locked in vibrationally.
What would you consider it as an alternative to the system?
Well, it's a whole other conversation, right? There's a private and a public, so you really have to go deep into these kind of concepts and ideas. The bottom line is what it requires to operate in a different construct is taking full responsibility first. And so that's a game, that's a developmental process. We're not set up for it. Like, our society is not set up for taking responsibility. Our society is set up for irresponsibility.
I'm going to bring in astrology now. We talk about entering the age of Aquarius. We're in the age of Aquarius now, right? And I have a scientific brain. I think if you're going to be a solid person who throws fireballs with their fingertips, you have to be the biggest skeptic on Earth. The stories around the age of Aquarius is the coming of truth, the bringing of knowledge. The last time it was around was Jesus Christ, and look what happened to society then. So the story is, those are the effects of the age of Aquarius. So now the question is, can we look at what's happening and see if they match up with the story? Because I'm not trusting in that the age of Aquarius is the way that it is, and I'm also not against it in that possibility until I see how the world occurs. So the show of #MeToo, and the plastic is another great example, and the corruption in the church is the third one. All of them are examples of people who have been seeing the same thing as normal and sane for 1,000 years, all of a sudden not seeing things as sane anymore. And so they're, quote unquote, waking up. It doesn't have to be magic. It doesn't have to be spirituality. They're waking up to the fact that they've been living like this. That whatever was happening was happening. And right now we realize that the plastic is really bad. I mean, the plastic's been bad for 40 years now. It's actually 100 years. Plastic was invented in like 1909 or something. Can't say that for sure. Don't quote me. The thing is, we've known since, let's say, 1970 or 80, the plastic is bad for everything. We've known about the environmental problems. I read a book, a storybook by Terry Pratchett that was written in like the 1950s or 60s. It was a sci-fi book about how they'd managed to damage their environment and had gone to another planet to solve the problems of pollution. And he wrote it 70 years ago. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, so you think these are new ideas, but they're not. What's interesting is now, after the age of Aquarius, whatever that means, over this last year or two, we've started to notice. It's like, you just like look at it and be like, but how have we been using plastic straws for this long if they're this bad? Like, seriously, it costs the companies less to not give us straws. Why were we doing this? And we've known it's a problem for a long time, but no one cared, even though everyone knew. Now we know and care because we're seeing the world newly about plastic straws. So if you want to see a proof of the age of Aquarius having an effect, you can look at #MeToo. We're tired of being treated a certain way. Plastic straws. We're tired of hurting our planet. The church. We're tired of letting people get away with things. It's like, those are the beginnings of proof, and I still wouldn't say that's enough proof.
It's the beginning of something.
It's the beginning of proof. Like I said, pulling the Band-Aid off hurts. That's the problem. I mean, you need to take the Band-Aid off, but it hurts when the Band-Aid comes off. And so if you start to look at the world as it is, and you start to imagine a Band-Aid's about to come off, you start to see that things are a little bit scary. And they're going to get better, but in the short term they're scary. We're not going to destroy ourselves. That's not real. But we might have a lot of sadness in the world for a little while, like a couple of years maybe.
A couple years.
The second worst disease in the world, in the whole world, around everybody, is depression. The second largest disease, and I mean, I don't define that as a disease. It's its own category of thing, but it's not that more people are depressed. It's that more people notice they're depressed. And then the kids in our society refuse to see the world as that's okay. And so they get depressed because they're like, this is not okay, but I don't know anything better. And so all of a sudden, depression. And the adults are like, yeah, I've been living the same life for 30 years and my life hasn't gone anywhere. Depression. But it's not new. They were depressed before. The only difference is now they're realizing it. Society has given it a word. And this goes to something Julian's been poking at a lot. What Julian has been poking at is the conversation around language. Our entire world is created out of nothing but language. It's like, I can look at this tree in front of us here. I could talk 10,000 words, and you could talk 10,000 other words. And the only true definition of the tree is our words together, along with everyone else who's ever had words about the tree. But because that's impossible to keep track of, we all like group together over time, either consciously or unconsciously, and decide, we've picked a couple words like brown and moss and like tree, for that matter. Because for all you know, I'm looking at a house. And you're looking at a tree. And the ants live in the tree, and it's their tree house. And so you see it from a different perspective. It's a different object. It references a different thing. That tree is a house, and it's a tree. And the only way we define what it is by giving it some value in our language system. So we create things the way they are. If we say we're depressed, we create ourselves as depressed. The more conversation you have with yourself, the more you start to believe the conversation you have with yourself. Then you get attached to some idea. Like, say, I don't know, what's a good one? Monogamy.
Electronic music is not good for you.
Oh yeah, how about that? Electronic music is not good for you. We have a friend, and she just gets very caught up in electronic music is not music.
And do you disagree? Do you like electronic
We
music?
don't disagree.
We don't disagree.
We
nor
hear
do
her
we agree.
perspective.
We hear her. But here's the thing. My only problem with it is that
She says she's open.
She says she's open to all possibilities, but electronic music is not music.
So she creates a conflict for herself, and it
Right.
becomes unresolved, and it's unresolved in language.
And then she gets
So attempting to-
defensive about that conflict.
Because she gets defensive because she has a position about it. She's not
Right.
unwilling to let go of the position. So that is a function of the mind, and the mind creates positions with mathematical reliability. So why people have arguments and conflicts. So letting go of positions, going back to Justin's earlier point, is what actually allows you to learn. Reading things that you don't agree with and actually being able to absorb that information would be like a good practice.
You're like an ayahuasca trip.
When you train your brain, you activate your pineal gland, you're getting dimethyltryptamine from your pineal gland, and then your pineal gland actually starts expanding, it starts growing, you start having that communication channel. So people have it temporarily with ayahuasca, right? But it shifts them, right? It shifts. But then integration into society is somewhat of a challenge, right? That's because there's practices that you require in regular life to have that full integration.
So I want to say something to the tune of the conversation. You may agree with us or disagree with us. You may think we're the craziest, absolute wackadoos you've ever wackadooed. Here's a really great thing I heard from, and I'm gonna source it. It's from Spirit Science, which is a YouTube channel, awesome channel about really cool stuff to have your own experience. That you don't have to agree with us or disagree with us. You can be totally on board with anything we say or not, but you just have it for you, and you can look at it in like a totally logical way and analyze me down to the logicalist, most wrong or right or whatever things I said, or the most emotional way. Did I make you laugh? Did I make you cry?
All of the above.
Absolutely. But just have it for you.
I asked Justin, Thursday to come here, and he's like, I legit want to be there. They didn't say it that way because he doesn't talk like that. I talk like that.
Legit.
Legit, bro.
Legit want to be there. But yeah, no, I thought if I bring him, it'll add this layer of texture and a younger perspective as well.
And how did the two of you meet? You said he's your mentor, but how did that even happen? Like, how did you find each other?
Well, I was doing a process called the Landmark Forum. At Landmark, I met a guy who was also being mentored by Julian.
I encourage people to really check it out and participate. They have, from my perspective, it's, it can go deep, but it requires like really having a mentor along the way, so you can go deeper into that inquiry. Like answering questions like, who am I? What is my life for? What is my relationship with reality?
Yeah.
What is reality?
What stories am I telling?
What is the distinction between being someone operating as a human doing to someone operating as a human being?
He was doing an exercise with me there, and he said that I should totally get in touch with you. And then we had 3 hours of phone calls, and we finally got to meet. And then then now I'm working with doing the work for Julian.
Oh, that's awesome. So you guys work together as well now.
No, sorry, that's my miscommunication. In a conversation about communication, I made an oopsie.
Owning it! That was a responsible communication, Justin.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
proud
very
of myself.
welcome.
I met him, and now I'm doing his brain training work.
Every Saturday we get together, we go for a walk.
Oh, let's
So
do it.
the G-Walk is a great place where we have a walk, we do breathing exercises, and we talk. Sometimes we have a Qigong teacher that comes, so we do some Qigong exercises. Other times I run people through my G-Walking system.
Yeah.
And then we just explore conversations while walking, which is really cool because your brain's much faster at processing things when you're walking and moving.
Yeah.
So we don't get us stuck, and we can talk about things that normally if you're sitting down, you would literally get really positional and really read about it, right? Because you're sitting and you're actually not physically moving. So you learn motion systems. So you learn how to use your body to assist you in processing your experience moment by moment.
Is that why you use your hands while you're talking the way you do? Both of you. You guys kind of hold a planet, pet a Persian cat. When you were doing this, like, what looked like a bob, like he's holding like a planet. Maybe planet Earth?
This is so great. I really like your perspective, Cyndi.
Yeah?
No, it's very creative. So many things are happening, right? High fives, high fives.
Energetic.
Yeah.
Yes.
High fives.
I don't know what's happening now. Get in this.
Great.
Yeah.
That feels great.
Oh, high fives, high brain waves, right?
Nice.
Yeah, one of the things we actually did as an experiment in this one of the companies we worked in is we had people high five each other more often.
Oh.
Even when there was no reason to high five. It's just a rant, like high five.
I bought some milk.
Yo, bro, high five. Yeah, just high five. Just
Perfect sense.
level. I took in a breath, bro. Yo, that's incredible. Thanks for being alive. High
There you
five.
go. High five. Yeah, thanks for being alive.
So I lead a company, Brain Training Pro, and what we offer is we offer programs for individuals, and we offer programs for organizations, or people that want to build organizations. So if you're someone that wants to build an organization, then you would do the organizational stream. And if you're someone that wants to simply deal with their personal life matters,
Start with the personal life.
yeah, then you come to a thing like we have events online. So we have events like reprogram your mind through breath. So that's designed for letting go of those positions. So your mind can let go of positions and look at new ones. There's a G-Walk, that we do every Saturday for individuals. So those are like intro events that people can come to. And then we have programs like life design. So you go in depth into designing your life, and you look at your life as a movie. And you're
I already do that.
Yeah, the only thing we do different is we actually have people write it all out, and we supervise and make sure they actually do it. Because as you very well know, people I know how to do that, but the knowing and the practical application part, not connecting. Because, so we assist people with that, and we have a process for it.
I know.
Right? So our company, we work on also teaching people, breathing systems, so that you can train your brain for many things. From a feature, you can trigger gamma brainwaves, but what is it the benefit? You now have energy to restore functionality to your body. You can start to heal your body faster if you had injuries in the past. You can get more energy for doing activities you enjoy. So there's that kind of practical, immediate benefit.
I always describe Julian's process here that he's talking about in the
Brain surgery?
Brain surgery,
Brain surgery?
Well, here's the thing.
Without the scalpel. No incision required.
That's right. If you look at most helping programs like Landmark or any of the other ones that are out there, there's so many weekend
Tony Robbins,
courses.
like
Tony
lots of them.
Robbins is another good one. Or How to Win
Abraham
Friends and
Hicks.
Influence People or any of that stuff. The way they basically operate is what they do is they take your face and they take a sledgehammer and they slam the sledgehammer in your face and hope they can crack through your shell. Julian's process is...
I like how you started that.
That's legit funny, right?
He takes your face and he takes a laser beam and he laser beams into your brain in the specific spot that you're actually having troubles with, because your process is stuck in a specific spot. Sometimes the sledgehammer will break you through everything, But sometimes it
You need
causes more
precision
damage,
and
or you need
accuracy.
precision and accuracy.
Yeah.
The cool thing about having two 316 breaths,
360, like the degrees of a
300
circle.
right, of course, 360 different breaths, is that every system in your body is covered specifically. So if you're struggling with a specific system, you can operate on the specific breath for that system.
It's very precise. So you can literally become, in a sense, even more advanced than a brain surgeon. Because you don't need to hurt yourself to heal yourself. Like hurting yourself to heal yourself, it's like you're causing more trauma to correct a programming issue. You know,
So what is hurting yourself?
well, like you cut yourself,
Oh, okay.
right? So it takes the body extra energy to heal that. With breath, you have no problems like blood-brain barrier. You know, there's no issue. It's just instant. There's no problem with that. There's simply you're developing capacity, and you're also developing how much energy you can generate as a human being.
And then how much time you need to process the new reality.
Right. And so that it allows your brain to adapt and reset on demand as long as you practice the breathing. So you now are controlling your brain through your breath. So anywhere in your life where you react, that process takes your brain 1/15 of a second. So it takes you 1/15 of a second to have a reaction. That's pretty fast. But when you start to breathe, you start to notice those 1/15 of a second. Your brain starts to slow down and you start to catch them. And when you do, it opens up new avenues for, you know, looking at different ways of doing things, being. So that's why we teach breathing. So we have a membership. There's a membership we run a club. The company runs a club called the Basics Club. 6 as in the number 6. So that's kind of the big number in all the systems we've developed. There's also Toronto, the 6. And so that's a $97 a month membership. So you get access to 4 programs. And from there, you can kind of explore customizing your personal experience based upon your budget and what you're looking to build or develop. A lot of people do accountability with us. People have initiative, but where they kind of lack skills is in the planning area, or sometimes they have the planning skills, but then it's like, how do you convert that plan into like reliable action? So we work with people on converting that like vision, idea, dream into, hey, train your body to act. You know, and that's where you get most of your processing power. That's where you get all of the learning. That's where you become really like in tune with how things work.
And as you know, Julian, I'm always accountable to everything I say all of the time.
Yes, you are.
So when I said earlier that I felt you in there, were you like, you know, like, because I felt like I saw some, like, I had visuals of like these red dots and some lines kind of like creating some sort of a pattern.
Good.
Was that something that
So you were generating something.
Okay.
So we're already always generating our experience. The place we go to as humans is like, is he doing something? The question you want to ask is,
What am I doing?
what am I generating?
As another modality in my Renaissance man process, at some point I studied hypnosis.
Rebirth, yeah.
Even outside of the possible spiritual magic connections, we're always creating connections with each other. And the first
Yes, we are.
great law of hypnosis, the one that makes hypnosis possible, that they never tell you, I'm spoiling the surprise, is all communication is hypnosis.
Oh.
The difference between a hypnotist and a regular person is we know that. It's the only difference.
We have a system.
Like if you operate on a certain system, I can move that system in different patterns by changing your frame. When you create a conversation like the one I'm having and you felt him enter your experience, the way his hypnotic communication operated on your unconscious mind. Is that magic? What is magic? If Julian was able to go and give you an imprint, an idea that you didn't have before, and he gave it to you, What he's literally done is taken his will and superimposed it on the world to create an effect. That is, in the dictionary, the definition of magic. So when we talk about Qigong or Reiki, which are both scientifically valid and proven, and they work, or the video I saw of this woman who in Africa somewhere was a psychic healer. Okay, this kid had cancer, and so the scientists looked at the kid and he had cancer, and then she said, okay, I'm going to take my psychic scalpel and I'm going to insert the psychic scalpel and blah, 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 and now you don't have cancer. And the doctor said, okay, so it's like it operates on your mind? It's like, no, that would be stupid. I actually cut in there. And they opened and there were incisions inside her body that she'd created. She said, no, I actually just took it out. It would be stupid to just think it out. The reality is, she created a perception. And then the reality was different than the perception. And they probably wouldn't have let her do it had they known that there was actual cutting involved. She created you in one way so that she could operate in another. So when you see these experiences, even if you let go of magic, though as I've just shown, magic is just the imposing of one's will on the world and having results. So magic is actually always happening and totally real. And the question is, again, labels. It's a definition. It's a word that we've defined as something. And you think of magic as Hollywood magic and fire and stuff. And I can tell you about the monks who've trained for years and years to take a pin and throw it through a pane of glass. It's not that magic is real or magic is not real. Just ask the damn question. Don't just accept people say, but magic isn't real, and then don't look at it for yourself. Look at it, feel it, have your own experience, and it's something or it's not. But the thing is, something being magic and something being science is not different either, and sometimes it is. But in this case, we have a perfect understanding of your brain and how it operates. There's been tons of research documentation on hypnosis and how it works and what it does, what it can do, what it can't do. By the way, no hypnotist could ever get you to do something you really didn't want to do. Isn't that both magic and science? Because I'm operating on you with nothing but my words to create change in the world, and yet I'm also doing it in a way that's very provable, very scientific, operates on certain brain functions and societal patterns, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's both. And what I think we're going to start to see is the conversation about magic and the conversation about science start to come together. Because you asked Julian and me, and I know the answer to what's up with the hands? Are we petting a cat? Are we whatever are we doing? And the fact is that because I'm open to the possibility, I'm connecting to my own energy. This is my energy field, and I'm just being in the space and playing with the field. It's there. I feel it. It's something felt. It's the same energy field that's played with by Qigong masters and Reiki people, and it doesn't even take that long to find. That's what Reiki activation is. You go in the first day and they touch you and you can do it. But they don't even have to. It's a hypnosis. They just tricked your brain into knowing something it already knew.
I totally agree.
And so it is the fact that I can move my hands around your body without touching you and like remove depression, remove anxiety, heal energy problems, heal blocks, but also in some cases there's been lots of study and evidence that some people can cure cancer using nothing but doing like this. Is that not magic? Scientifically studied, scientifically proven, repeatable, progressible, all the rules that follow with science. Teachable. Anyone could do it. That's science. Yeah. But that's fucking awesome science.
Awesome science. That is next level. Here we are.
Here we are.
At the completion of our podcast.
Yes.
I'm so glad that I was totally invited and didn't invite myself.
I love capturing the real moments.
Yes.
You know? Yeah, it's awesome.
Versus the unreal ones. The ones that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So unreal.
So for those, we just edit them out.